This could be a train wreck. I'm going to warn you now. I'm exhausted. I have to fly to Boston in 9 hours. I have the hiccups, and they won't stop. I've been trying to start this show for like 30 minutes. Driving me crazy. There it goes. Episode 107. The cursed episode? We'll find out. Let's go. Welcome to Coast2Coast Pinball. My name is Nate Shivers. This is a podcast commentary. I'm a man out of quarters coming to you not live from San Diego, California. So it's 10:32 p.m. I think it's Thursday night, September 18th. I had to literally go walk around my condo and play 3 or 4 games of Twilight Zone to get rid of those hiccups just now. I couldn't even start the show. I tried. It was a mess. You would have hated me for it. So what's happening? There's a lot happening. Actually, there's a lot happening. And I've been really, really busy in my personal life and in my job. And all this stuff in pinball is just happening around us. Expo is coming. The schedule's been announced. More games are being kind of pushed forward from where they were. There's 1 million games for sale right now in the pinball community. The Walking Dead is having its effect. I can't help but all day long, every time I get a few minutes free from emails and phone calls and doing what I'm doing, to jump on the Pinside Pinball forums and take a look at what's going on there.
Forum static.
Oh, where to even begin with forum static, the static that is the forums. One interesting thread that I read was concerning someone posting the rumor that the Walking Dead pinball machine was selling out of distributors. And that was met with a bunch of skepticism, a bunch of, I wouldn't say hate, but people were not thrilled with someone pointing this out. And I couldn't tell if it was because they truly didn't believe the person posting this, quote, rumor, or if they were just bothered by the fact they don't currently have the means to buy this game, or what. But if you go into the Stern subforum on Pinside, there's a thread titled The Walking Dead LEs. We're talking about the LEs here. Pros aren't going to sell out, of course. They don't sell out the pros. The LE's close to selling out. And in that thread, you'll see that this is someone who claims to have information from someone who knows that distributors are requesting more games from Stern, meaning they sold what they had. However, there's the counter-argument that, yes, distributors also said they were about to sell out of the Star Trek LEs and had more. I can tell you, I know someone who emailed me multiple times before they pulled the trigger on a Starship Enterprise limited edition Star Trek, that they were told by a distributor that the distributor had 1 game left, and then he called a week or two later and said, so you probably don't have that game left, do you? And the distributor said, I don't, but I'm waiting on a couple more, and got 2 or 3 more. I have talked to this distributor about a different game, totally unrelated, and he still has some of those more LE Star Treks that he got. So it's entirely possible that some of the people who think that it's all just sales tactics and, fireworks and ballyhoo, that you're just being too skeptical sometimes. And I think people's initial run of certain games that they were allotted maybe did sell out. They got more, and those didn't sell out. Remember, there's 750 LEs on Star Trek. There was a premium on Star Trek, and lots of pros. Also, I don't know how compelling the LE Star Trek was. I'm not totally sure. I think people knew that the falling down big bad spaceship, whatever that thing's called at this point, the Vengeance, wasn't going to be just critical for gameplay. You took away that, you took away the asteroids, you took away some toys, and 1 vertical up kicker. And I don't know that color-changing lights and the lights up and down the armor, I'm not sure that was really a compelling push. It certainly wasn't like AC/DC. And I think you have to be a little more sophisticated as you look at, are the LEs selling out quickly? Is there a turn in the tide of LEs all selling? It's not that cut and dry. There's so much going into the new pinball buying market right now. There's so many projects out there. And it's not even just that people have money on projects, it's that there's people waiting for more details on some of these projects, and they might want to pull the trigger on some of these projects because of the theme. So we're talking here like The Hobbit, like The Big Lebowski, things like that people, they have a teaser, they need to see a little bit more, they need to know more, they want to see some gameplay video, whatever it may be. So it's really easy to say, yeah, the LE buying craze is dying out. There'll be plenty of those to go around in the not too distant future. Don't jump in on an LE till you see more. Man, I don't think I agree. I think these LEs are going to sell out. I think the theme is hot. I think people are into the look of the artwork. I think there's people on these Pinside threads underestimating how popular this television show is. This television show is very popular. Major hit in pop culture, especially in that like 18 to 40 age range. Big show for that type of viewer. I also think forget that it's a TV show, and I don't know the worldwide appeal of this TV show, but it's freaking zombies, man. People have been waiting for this. It's zombies. And there are people, I've seen the posts, I've gotten a couple emails, they're buying this just because it's zombies. Because it's not a superhero, it's not a rock band, and it's not sort of, something, I don't want to be disparaging of a theme like Mustang or a theme like The Family Guy or something like that. It's not sort of wholesome and warm and, friendly to the flyover states. No offense. No offense to like probably the majority of my listeners there. Sorry about that. I say flyover states would love. Teresa's from a flyover state. But The Walking Dead is not that. The Walking Dead is edgy, it's gritty, it's mean, And there are people, I think, who bought Metallica just because it was sort of edgy and gritty and mean. They didn't even like Metallica. So The Walking Dead, I think, takes it even farther. The art package looks awesome. It's Borg and Lyman Sheets. The stars are lining up on this one, everybody. So if you're sitting there and you're thinking, I really want the LE, I want the limited one, because possibly prices might jump up. Possibly there's no premium. So should I get this LE to get all the features? Because there are people who it just drives them nuts. Because they're home players, and they want to buy the complete game with all the features. It drives them nuts to think that I'm buying the Pro that's missing this, this, and this. I get that. I get emails all the time. I'm able to kind of go the other way with it and realize that most people who play a game like Metallica are playing that game in the Pro version. So I'm perfectly okay looking at a Metallica and saying, I would own the Pro. The Walking Dead, we'll see. We'll see what the gameplay is really like. There's a lot of features that are different. The more I look at that game, the more I kind of lament the fact they took so much out of the Pro. Although I think the Pro still has tons of potential, I'm sort of bummed that there's so many differences. I've had a couple emails, people asking me about the premium. I can't tell you any more than this. If they sell all these LEs, there's going to be a premium. I will tell you that with a lot of certainty. If all the LEs sell out fairly quickly to distributors and distributors report back and start requesting more when there aren't more to get, there will be a premium. So if you're really, really, really desperately wanting the features of that LE, but you can't do it right now, I think you'll be okay. I think there'll be a premium. That is my educated guess, that there will be a premium. There's a ton of pinball machines for sale right now. I mean, you just go to Pinside and start looking around, and I'm just glancing at the front page. Actually, let's make this easy on myself and actually click the market tab here, so we're inside the market. Pinball machines for sale, as a matter of fact. My internet has decided that it's going to grind to a screeching halt here at 10:40 at night when I'm trying to record Coast to Coast Pinball. So boo on my internet. So I will look at the front page. I mean, there's a High Roller Casino for $12.75. Not an amazing game or anything, but there's a High Roller Casino. I've seen at least 2 Addams Families pop up on the front page in the last couple of days. One of them pretty affordable. Just kind of browsing here. Oh, there's more. Somebody's trying to trade a Bram Stoker's Dracula for No Good Gophers. That's not really Walking Dead related. For sale, Stern 24, $3,300. That's you're getting there. For sale, Theater of Magic, Columbus, Ohio, $4,500. Come on, folks. Look at that. That's a deal. Somebody should be all over that. And there's a bunch. There's a post here, X-Men Magneto and Star Trek Ellie for sale, Cincinnati area. The Walking Dead is going to be the latest game to mix up people's collections. Mustang didn't do it. Star Trek did it to a degree. Metallica certainly did it. AC/DC before that. I think The Walking Dead might be the trifecta. Not that Star Trek wasn't successful. I think it was very successful. I think that this is going to overshadow that. So that's kind of where we're at with that. Just late tonight, a thread popped up on Pinside that says The Walking Dead has arrived down under. And I'm like, what? Excuse me? Games already? And sure enough, Pinhead, senior Pinhead poster on Pinside, DMC, based in Sydney, says 2.5 hours ago from when I'm looking at this thread, it's arrived. They don't even have the Walking Dead box stamp yet. Hope to play later today. Someone will post video, I'm sure, from the Australian Pinball League. So the Australian Pinball League has gotten what looks to be the first delivered Walking Dead Pro machine anywhere. It was air freighted in, and yes, indeed, where there's the little model line instead of the black ink stamp that they use on the games, it's literally drawn on in Sharpie Walking Dead, which kind of looks cool in a way because it's drawn on all scraggly. So now everyone wants to see video, and I think by later today, after you've heard this podcast from most of you, or maybe before you've heard this podcast, there will be video of The Walking Dead on the internet, and we'll actually know more about how this thing plays, how the ball moves around the field, as they say. So that's pretty exciting. The Walking Dead is certainly captivating some imagination right now. I personally can't wait to play one. Also in forum static, there was a post a couple days ago that I'm just now getting to. Emerald City limited editions are all done. And the post simply says, congrats, Jersey Jack Pinball. They've shipped them all. They've shipped all 1,000 Emerald City limited editions Wizard of Oz's. That's a pretty big deal. Took them a while. I think it took them, 3 years from launch to get them all shipped? Is that right? But that's pretty amazing. That's a lot of pinball machines. Hobbit's coming. Jersey Jack Pinball seems to be rolling. I think there's still Wizard of Oz games to be sold. I think that game has legs for a little while. It'll be very interesting to see as they do the Ruby Red limited edition, how many more just standards kind of get built and sold over the next year. I hope to get to ask Jack that, what the long-term idea is for, are they building inventory? Do they plan to just stock some up? Are there distributors buying these games? Will there be Wizard of Oz's available later next year? I don't know. It's an interesting thought. It would almost be a shame if the length of time it took to get all those games out, and I know there's still people waiting on games, not these limited editions, as it looks like they've all shipped, but is it over? I mean, is it done? Are we not going to see any more? How long? Be interesting. When they switch to Hobbit, does that end Wizard of Oz? I don't know. And with Pat Lawler not far behind, what happens then? How long should a game be available? I mean, I think I can buy a Transformers new in box right now from a few distributors. So, interesting. Can Jersey Jack do a Vault Edition, quote unquote? Can that facility bring back a game and do another 100 if the demand was there? I don't know. I'm not sure. These are great questions we'll have to try and corner Jack on in the near future. Also, in the Jersey Jack realm, there's been some updates to the Hobbit update thread, and really the updates that kind of lit fire to that post. And if you've seen Pinside lately, you know what I mean by lit fire to the post. Some little updates that Robin's instituted there. We've seen now what's the word I'm looking? Plastic molds, the character molds for some bash toys from the pop-ups that'll be popping up out of the playfield, a la the Trolls. And they were met with sort of a mixed reaction, so to speak. And the artist who designed them is in that thread, and it's sort of painful to watch him have to take some of this criticism. This is the problem with releasing all of this sort of a la carte. Here's the Whitewood. Here's the first look at some of the artwork. Here's the layout. Here's these inserts. Here's, these the face toys. Back Alley Matt from Back Alley Productions. Is it Productions? Back Alley Creations? Back Alley Creations. He's in there kind of talking about why they went with the look they did, how they ended up on these looks. It really does appear that Warner Brothers had a lot of say in what the final look of some of these toys would be, and it's an interesting read if you're into that sort of licensor relationship and how the inner workings of that are. It's just, I question showing them all by themselves, because these faces just on a plain background, not in the game, not with all the other artwork surrounding them, they don't look impressive. They look fine. I think they're okay. Me personally, I'm okay with them. I think what I like about them is they sort of look hand done in a way, which contrasts against the photorealistic playfield art possibly. But I kind of like the hand mold. The tree pop bumper toppers on Wizard of Oz, those are sort of hand done looking, but yet mass produced. And I think that's really neat, and I think it gives a cool vibe. I'm not super deep into The Hobbit as a theme. I've seen both of the first two movies, and I'll see the third. But I like what we got here. I actually don't love the photorealistic art, which they're stuck with the license. But that's okay. I don't know. I'm okay with these, but there's some people in here pretty rough on these. Interesting read. Go check it out. But definitely we're seeing things happening. We're seeing progress the whole way through on The Hobbit. And if anybody questioned if that game was going to get built or start being built later this year, I think you can probably bank on it at this point. I don't know if we're going to ship games this year, but we're certainly going to see that. And I got to say, one of the things about these toys, if you look at what we're seeing is as far as the art and the toys, and when I say art, I'm not talking about the playfield here. I'm talking about the toys that we've seen on both The Wizard of Oz and now The Hobbit. I like that it's different. I like that it's not like what Stern's doing. I like that it's not anything that Bally Williams did. I mean, come on, let's do stuff. Let's do new things. And I sort of like the contrast between the futuristic modern idea of having this big, LCD screen in the back box, and then these sort of, I don't even know what they're made out of, some sort of like resin molded, goblin faces. I think that's kind of cool. So I'm actually all for it. I like it. Check that out. You can decide yourself. And that's in the Hobbit update. I'm actually refreshing this other thread of the Walking Dead has arrived down under. I do have to say that I love the post by Pinball Master poster on Pinside, Zucot, who says, "Damn it, Australia, get it together," as if the entire country of Australia is failing us with not having video of The Walking Dead up and running. So that's pretty awesome. I do like that. Have you seen the video released by Planetary Pinball with Roger Sharp and the Medieval Madness remake? It's pretty awesome. So for anybody that had not seen video from from like Texas or one of the other places where there's been a Medieval Madness rebuild or re-release, remake, whatever we're calling the darn thing, for anybody who hasn't seen that yet, this video is super HD, super high quality. It's filmed in a house. I don't know whose house. But it's the game in a nice modern-looking house, and there's someone playing the game, and you get to really see that this thing looks and feels. I mean, feels is kind of not true because you're watching a video, but you know what I mean. It has the right mojo. It is Medieval Madness, and you get to really like look at it up close and see all the toys, the ramps, the playfield art. And then you have Roger Sharp, legendary pinball historian, talking about the game and talking about Planetary Pinball Supply, talking about how great of a sort of a choice Medieval Madness is to be this first remake from the Bally Williams era, and why it was so successful then, and how it's sort of carried on now that 17, 18 years later, people are still attracted to it. It's really cool. Roger Sharp's just like, what's the word I'm looking for? I have a word, he's He's a fantastic ambassador for this hobby and spokesperson for pinball in general. He has been for a long time. I think we all know that. But it's cool seeing him do that, and his stamp of approval is definitely on the game. So that should lay waste to anybody who's still sitting there thinking, oh, this is just some remade, cheap version. No, it's Medieval Madness, and it's pretty awesome. I got to look more into the way they're doing the LED lights. These are not LED sockets. We're not replacing incandescent bulbs with LEDs like that you would buy from one of the many suppliers out there that you can just switch out the colors. These are actually circuit-mounted LEDs. So each insert has 3 little circuit-mounted LEDs in that spot to light up that insert. And 3 of these LEDs are set to a certain brightness. Now, they're all white, by the way, too, so there's no color matching going on here. And they've been tuned especially to give sort of a vintage incandescent, is that even the right word? Incandescent look to a standard, light bulb in a pinball machine. So you get the benefit of the lower power use and the long-lasting appeal of LEDs with this new sort of idea of doing a surface-mounted, circuit board-mounted LED. So the good and the bad on that is, the good is they've been pretty smart about this. I like this idea. And I'm sure this was not born on this machine. It probably comes from somewhere, some other gaming system or slot machines or somewhere there had to be long-lasting LED lights. But you get 3 LED lights per insert. So if one of them does fail, one of them goes out, the other 2 lights are there, and the system then knows to turn the brightness up on the other 2 so that you don't have a dimmer, lit insert. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. I like that. What if all 3 go out? I guess is what you're probably thinking. Well, you're going to have to learn how to replace a surface board mounted LED. Not impossible work, not the easiest work either. It can be done. So that's interesting, because one thing on this video you'll see is they do lift up the playfield, and you get to see underneath the game. And I saw underneath the game way back at the Texas Pinball Festival earlier this year when Rick had the game there and he pulled it open, and there's this giant circuit board. It doesn't look like an old Medieval Madness. There are some glaring differences between this. When you pull this playfield up, there's this giant green circuit board, and it has a ton of the insert lighting mounts on it, as well as a bunch of other things. And it's a new way to do it. There's less wire, obviously, which is probably a good thing. The other thing that you'll notice is when they take the back glass off, there's just this tiny little controller in the back box running the whole thing. The brain of this game is very small. It's cool. I'm all for it. I think it's great that we could possibly, move to modern games that might have smaller actual wood physical cabinets, smaller back boxes. You could do some things with the dimensions that change. I know Highway Pinball is certainly doing that. So pretty cool to see that. It's definitely nice to watch anything that's that highly produced with that much kind of effort put into it that's based on pinball. I will eat that up anytime. If you do high def video and have somebody smart talking about pinball, I'm going to watch it. Yes, I know they're trying to sell us a game. Yes, I would actually like to buy that game. Just I can't do it right now. I can't justify it. Maybe down the road. But it's very cool. It bodes well, I think, how pro what we're seeing, the effort from Planetary Pinball has been so far on this title. And I think they're pretty aware over there that if they knock this one out of the park, that good things and happy business is in the future. So definitely check out that video with Roger Sharp. So the expo schedule has been posted, announced, yada yada, all this. And I had my email and my Facebook lit up the other day when this came up, because I've been talking about going to Expo for quite a while now, and when people started looking at the schedule of events, they saw 9 a.m. on Saturday, covering the world of pinball one podcast at a time, with some of the top pinball podcast people listed there as being on this panel, and I was not there, and I had like a flurry of emails saying, hey man, are you not going to Expo? And actually, that was the first email. I was in a meeting, and I get this message from one of my faithful listeners who said, I thought you were going to Expo. What's up? And I said, I am going to Expo. Why? You coming? And he said, no, I'm not coming. He lives very far away. And he said, I thought you'd be on their podcast panel. And funny enough, I had just sort of wondered in my head a couple days ago when I might hear something, because I had been asked to be a part of something at the time, not decided what, at Expo quite a while back when I met Rob Burke in person earlier this year. So I just shot an email out to Rob like, hey, I am coming. If there's anything, let me know. And he's like, oh, I thought you were already on the panel. And it just was a scheduling thing. Forgot to put me in. No big deal. So we sorted that all out. I responded to the emails. Yes, don't worry. I am a part of it. They updated their schedule. So you're stuck with me, fellow podcasters, Spooky Pinball, Game Room Junkies, Broken Token, and Retro Gaming Roundup. I will be there. And I'm excited because I think that's a fantastic panel. I mean, how cool is that all of us doing these podcasts, literally just because we like to do it, get a whole panel at 9 a.m. on a Saturday morning when everyone will be wide awake to really take in and bask in all the great stories and things we have to say, right? Right? 9 a.m.? Come on, you can do it. So, anyway, I'm just kidding. It's going to be a lot of fun. I can't wait. Charlie from Spooky Pinball is threatening shenanigans. There's shenanigans been threatened. I will neither confirm nor deny my involvement in any said rumored shenanigans. But I'll be there. And, 9 a.m. Chicago time is 7 a.m. California time. So we'll see how I'm doing that morning. But all is well. So more importantly, maybe, than the 9 a.m. Saturday, October 18th pinball podcast panel is this giant schedule of awesomeness. We're going to do a much more in-depth rundown of Expo. It'll probably get its own show. I will be trying to source Rob Burke to come on the show and do a little chat with us about what he thinks is exciting. But let me tell you what I think is exciting, just scanning through this real briefly. Because there's some things that pop out as, ooh, that's going to be a can't-miss moment. John Papaduke. John Papaduke has a giant thread on Pinside that has been resurrected from the dead from 2 years ago, with a bunch of people wanting to know more about the games, and the people who are in on those games, and we're talking about Radioactive, Zombie Adventureland, and Magic Girl, and Alice in Wonderland. People that are in on those games are kept up to date very regularly. The people who are not in on those games are free to bash away on Pinside and complain about John building these games slower than they would like, even though they're not in on the games. Then there's the in-between. Then there's some folks that are in on the games and kind of wishing John would be farther along. So I think it's very cool that John will be speaking at Expo on Thursday, and I hope to get to catch up with John myself. It's funny. When I talk to John Papaduke, and I've talked to him a few times, seems like a great guy. He does not want to jump into deep conversations about the games he's building. I think he is such an artist and doing things so differently that he doesn't want to really, not explain, but defend what he's doing. That's certainly not the lines of conversations I've had with him. He and I talk about other projects and kind of topics going on, and we've talked about music a lot. We've talked about some of the past. I had a really cool conversation with him, and I don't think he'd have a problem with me throwing this out there, that I just asked him, how'd you end up doing World Cup soccer? What was that like? And I believe he said to me that Roger Sharp pulled him aside or called him or something and said, you really should do this theme when he was at Bally Williams. Or at Bally, I guess. Bally Williams, I forget the timeline on that. But and I just thought that was a little tiny interesting insight. And John's got great stories, and I hope that someday here on Coast to Coast Pinball we can go through some of those, because there's a lot. And he's a very, very smart guy. He's a very thoughtful person. You can tell it comes out in his art. I know people are waiting on those games, so it'll be interesting to see that go down. So that to me is like one of the big, eyebrows up. John Papaduke speaking. Good. Also, just kind of glancing through that, I made some notes on the highlights to me. Team Dutch Pinball. So this is Barry boy, I hate to pronounce any name with two A's in a row because I will probably pronounce it wrong. Barry, I'm going to go with Jap. I don't know if that J is silent or pronounced like a Y in English, but Barry, Jap, and Philip from Dutch Pinball will be giving a talk about delivering an immersive pinball experience in the Big Lebowski pinball. So that's cool. That's definitely going to be one that we're all going to be watching and seeing how far along we see the Big Lebowski, what they bring, what they choose to show us. Friday has Pat Lawler. So Pat Lawler's designing a game with Jersey Jack Pinball, and Pat Lawler will be giving a speech that right now, a seminar entitled Back to the Future. Interesting. Can't wait. That's going to be awesome. That definitely stuck out. Earlier actually right before Pat is Rick Bartlett from Planetary Pinball Supply. And do we get a big announcement? Last year Rick broke the news of Medieval Madness. That was a year ago. And does Rick go down that road and announce another game? I think there's some romance in announcing a game at the Pinball Expo. Expo has this long legacy of news and hype and announcements, but Rick hasn't shipped a Medieval Madness yet. Does he want to possibly divert people away? I don't know. And I don't know where they're at with orders and whatnot. I guess people are locked in with money now at this point, pre-orders, or they're already sold, so you wouldn't have a chance to get out and get into the next one. Or is it in their best interest to make the big announcement and say that we're looking at next summer selling ... I don't know. I don't have any inside information. I mean, we know what all the rumors have been. Obviously, everyone thought Attack from Mars. We've heard Cactus Canyon. We've heard Big Bang Bar. I think there's some people hoping for Monster Bash. Maybe it'll be something completely out of left field that we didn't think of. But it'll be interesting. Does Rick announce a second Planetary Pinball remake game there? I don't know. That's definitely a big one. There's others. There's definitely some other stuff, but those are the ones that like jumped off the screen to me is like, oh my gosh, cannot wait. Quite honestly, the schedule is just so jam-packed. I can't wait. I'm going to do a daily rundown, Coast to Coast Pinball episode from Expo, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. 3 episodes, trying to talk to the people, trying to, kind of recaps of everything we see, because there's likely going to be a lot of news. There's likely going to be announcements that will overshadow other announcements, and I'd like to get them all documented and in audio form here on Coast to Coast Pinball, since I'm going to be there, There's also tournaments. We'll talk about those in the next couple of weeks as we get closer to the event. So there'll be lots to talk about, lots going on. Cannot wait. I think that this will also be a big, big Pinball Expo for independent build games, small build games. Wrath of Olympus will be there, Big Lebowski, Lexi Lightspeed on the P3 platform. Time Shock will be popping up there in some form or another. Spooky Pinball will have America's Most Haunted. There's a lot of stuff going on. So definitely looking forward to Expo. I hope to meet a lot of you guys there too. Oh, and by the way, no, we'll do that in the mailbag. So there, I've edited myself.
Check the email.
Hey, look, it's check the email because I edited myself. I don't know if I can find this email or not, but I had a very nice email from someone who... Here it is. Ken. Ken wrote me. Love the show. Definitely my favorite pinball podcast. Oh, you flatter me, Ken. Thank you. Have listened to every episode and always get excited when a new one is available. I saw you at Pop-Up, but didn't want to interrupt your game of Zachariah Magic Castle. My son and I were playing Clown one machine over. I actually remember Ken and his son. I remember exactly that moment. I've never entered any tournaments, don't own any machines, just love to play at shows and on location. On the 5 balls is cheating subject, I pretty much agree with that for the newer games. We keep a high scores spreadsheet by machine, of which my son leads on about 90% of the games. Most machines we come across are 3 ball, but a few on location in our area are set on 5 ball, which kind of messes things up. Lately, I've been jotting down the score after 3 balls, then using 4 and 5 just to practice. Does that work? ? Seems like most scoring bonuses are after a ball is completed, but do some games have additional bonuses after the whole game is completed? That's a good question that I don't have a very definite answer to there, Ken. So first, yes, 5 balls is cheating. 5 balls is cheating, except on Target Pool. Target Pool 5 balls is not cheating, and really all those older games. The 5 balls cheating thing, it's really just me joking around more than anything, but it stems from an old thing where I sold a game. I think I sold Party Zone to someone, and they told me how they started like putting up all these scores, and I was like kind of offended how much higher their scores were than what I'd put up, until he told me, he's like, yeah, man, I don't know why you had it set on only 3 balls. And I'm like, you cheater. 5 balls is cheating. So that's where that came from, and I've just always kind of joked about it on the game. There probably are games where at the end of the game there's another bonus awarded, so your scores wouldn't quite match up. But I think for the most part you're good. I'm looking at my games, and Bride of Pinbot here, Twilight Zone, Tales from the Crypt. Yeah, you'd be fine if they were set to 5 balls, just taking your score up to 3 for comparison's sake. One thing, I really should just insert an impromptu trip report here right in the middle of Check the Email, which I can do because I host this show.
Trip reports.
So I haven't even told you, I played a lot of pinball last weekend, 2 weekends ago when I was on the East Coast. And I spent an evening after taking a red-eye flight, because I'm a crazy person, red-eye flight, 3 meetings, and then Silver Ball Museum in Asbury Park. I was really tired. And I found myself really not playing the DMD games. And they have a very good selection of DMD games there. And they have some of my favorites. They have Theater of Magic. They have Doctor Who. They have, what else have I been playing a lot lately there? Attack from Mars. They have Medieval Madness. Those games are all set to 5 balls. It drives me insane that they set those games to 5 balls. I think they're trying to sort of match that up with a lot of the older games that are just 5 balls by default, a lot of the EM games. And the EM games just feel right on 5 balls because you get so many like house balls, which is a term I love, and it's one of the terms you pick up at tournaments when you're around all the really good players who are just living it. They call it a house ball, and that's to say that when a ball just unfairly drains on you through nothing that you did wrong, that's a house ball. Like the house got that part of your money. Get it? It's a great term. So we're going to definitely use the term house balls going forward. And on a lot of those older EM games where you're really, you're nudging and you're trying to save the ball, house balls are devastating, and they happen often. And 5 balls feels right. So when you move to like the Addams Family, 5 balls is no good. The game is really dialed in, I think, rules-wise and feel-wise and length of game time-wise for 3 balls, and most of those games are. Now, is it a great way to see more of the game? Yes. I'm not arguing that that's not true. Here's my problem. At Silver Ball Museum, you pay a flat fee to get in there, and it's really it's super affordable. I think after 5 o'clock, it's $10 for the rest of the night for one of the premier collections of games anywhere. And there's no reason to set those DMD games to 5 balls. They should be set to 3 balls, which is what you'd see in tournaments. So if you're a tournament player and you're trying to rack up your score, it's nice to just have it set the way a tournament would have it set. But I think they're going for the nostalgia, the Jersey Shore nostalgia. They got the Elvis statue in there. They're literally right on the boardwalk. If you haven't been to the Silver Ball Museum in Asbury Park, it's literally on the ocean. It's 2 walls of this building are glass, are mirrors, and one looks out right at the ocean. So you can be playing, bow and arrow, which I don't even know if they have a bow and arrow, but I just picked that out of the sky, and then lean to the left and look at the ocean crashing into the sand across the boardwalk on the Jersey Shore. It's really awesome. So I think with that nostalgia thing, and they have so many EM games, what a fantastic collection of EM early solid state games as well. They have some wood rails there. I mean, this is really a very complete collection. They have table air hockey, which I want to murder people playing that when I'm trying to play pinball. But so I think that's why they do that, is they're going for that 5-ball nostalgic feel. But that's just not, that doesn't work for me. So I wish they'd change that. That's my only real complaint there. Love that place. The Stone Pony, the famous Stone Pony, Bruce Springsteen played there. Tons of bands still play there. Is literally across the street and down 150, 200 yards. It's really a cool place. I was in there on a Thursday night from, probably didn't get there till like 6:30, and I stayed for about 2 hours. There was maybe 6 people in the place playing. Some are sort of over on the Jersey Shore. There were people on the boardwalk, but some are sort of over. Very few people playing, so I had my run of the place. They've got a Wizard of Oz. They actually had added in a couple games, which I'm totally blanking on right now. I can't even remember. They added in a few new games. It was good to see that, though, and I enjoyed it very much. But I was finding myself playing older games. And I remember an email I got really early on when I was making fun of EMs and early solid states and making jokes about how everything without a DMD is just an EM to me. Somebody wrote me and said, dude, it's going to hit you one day. You're going to really just all of a sudden start appreciating these old games. And you know what? It's already happened. I do really appreciate these old games. And I had a lot of fun. I was playing like Kiss and trying to score really good on Kiss. And here's what a big dork I was. I was actually going through my phone and looking at past Papa results on my phone. And looking at past It Never Drains in Southern California tournament results on my phone. And looking at the scores that players put up on these games. And then finding those games at the Silver Ball Museum and trying to best those scores. Using like Joker Poker and there's a few others that were matching up, like Captain Fantastic. Games that maybe I don't normally stop and play. I was like learning the rules as I went. And boy, learn how all those old games score. It'll make you feel a little bit better about them. So there's my little brief trip report on the Silver Ball Museum. Back to all this email.
Check the email.
And by all this email, back to this last email of the show. Sorry, guys. I'm not doing a very good job at answering everybody's email. So I'll do what I can. Let's just randomly pick one here for the last one did. This is friend of the show, Kenny. Kenny writes me. He says, hope you're doing well. I'm getting The Walking Dead Limited Edition. Here are my thoughts. Kenny, you've got the floor, but you got to do it through my voice. I was pumped for this game because of talking to John, he means John Borg, and his statements about this being his best game he's ever designed. Kenny talked to John Borg at the Texas Pinball Festival, and John told him that this was the best game he'd ever designed. That's the backstory there. I think I was expecting more innovation and hoping for some classic Borg inner loops like on Tron, X-Men, and Iron Man. I was also hoping for an LCD. It seems like a rather straightforward layout. That's not a bad thing, but I guess my expectations were raised. So I agree, Kenny. My expectations were sort of raised too because I heard all that same kind of talk and whatnot coming from the Stern camp about how this was going to be John Borg's masterpiece, his greatest game. We're using all these innovative things. And I think I was picturing something like multi-level or with some sort of LCD screen somewhere. I kind of had that in my head too, because I think we're all sort of dreamers, and we've seen the future on some other games, and we think that that's coming. So what we got was more straightforward, albeit with really cool pulls from different, I think, Borg designs, and then just classic pinball things. Like, the star rollovers are fantastic and all that. But it is all in and out. It's a 2-ramp modified fan layout with the toy from Austin Powers, right? But and that's not a bad thing. Like Kenny said, that's not a bad thing. Just my expectations raised. Kenny continues. The game does have lots of shots and some unique design elements, and I love the theme, artwork, and the team designing the game. I'm intrigued by the new magnet design and curious if they do something different. I like the star rollovers. The shot to the shooter lane is a little different. I'm indifferent on the crossbow. I'll have to wait and see on that. I love spinners. The ramp lifting is cool, nothing new, but cool. I hope Cellbox C does more than just house a walker head in the front. It's so big, it surely does more. The feature matrix doesn't say anything about that, so I'm just hoping. Anyway, that's my take on it. Regards, Kenny. Kenny, I agree completely. That is a big house we got there in the back, and I don't know if it's just a big empty, plastic house or whatever they made that thing out of. We don't know. I should go back to the Pinside forums and update that The Walking Dead in Australia thread real quick here before we sign off and see if there are 5 new 5 new posts, and nothing. So, I don't know. We'll see. We will see. If you like spinners, and I think Kenny is one of those folks that I talked about earlier where he wants all the features, so he went with the LE. I don't think he'll be disappointed. I have a feeling this is going to be a pretty fantastic game. So that's kind of where I'm at with it. And that's the show, ladies and gentlemen. That's episode 107 of Coast to Coast Pinball. I have mailed everybody's shirts as of today. All of them. We had a run on the Heather Red t-shirts. Don't order a triple XL. I'm out of them. They're gone. I don't know if I'll get more or not. I think I have triple XL in other sizes. If you want a shirt, check them out on the website, which is coast2coastpinball.com. You can email me directly anytime you like, and that's coast, the number 2, coastpinball@gmail.com. Like us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter. I appreciate you listening. We're just going to keep rolling along here. Headed out to Boston. Going to play some pinball somewhere. In fact, I have another trip report from last week in Boston I haven't even gotten to. So episode 108 is not too far around the corner. Got a few interview things I'm trying to get done. That's been my fault and my scheduling issues. So until we speak again, enjoy it. Later.